You're listening to the Archaeology Podcast Network.
You're listening to the Rock Art Podcast. Join us every week for fascinating tales of rock art, adventure, and archaeology. Find our contact info in the show notes and send us your suggestions.
Well, welcome out there in Archaeology Podcast land. This is your host, Dr. Alan Garfinke, and we're blessed and honored to do Rock Art Podcast episode number 141. And we have some wonderful guests from the UK. We have Dr. Angharad Jones and Hannah Andrews. Are you with us?
Yes, hi there.
Well, tell us a bit about your background and how you ever got involved with the study of rock art.
So I've always loved this kind of thing. My parents used to take me when we went on holiday. We went to France quite a lot when I was younger, which obviously has some of the best rock art in the whole of the world, in my opinion. And they used to take us to the French caves. And that's sort of where my interest in archaeology and early prehistory started. So this has been something that's been in my life for as long as I can remember. And I was really lucky to kind of come back around to it when it came to having a job and working at Creswell Crags, which has some of the best, the only rock art really in the UK that's been sort of proven from this period.
And what is your role there at Creswell Crags?
So my job, I work as part of the learning team. So I do the school trips and I do the tours for the public and everything. So I take them into the caves to see the rock art and tell them all about what life in the Ice Age was like at Creswell Crags.
Wow. Sounds exciting. Dr. Jones, now it's your turn.
So I am going to probably disappoint everybody in that I'm not even an archaeologist. I'm a paleontologist. So my background is in geography, and I really got into being interested in like the Pleistocene of the past, specifically the mammals of the past. And I got a job at Creswell Crags, and from Creswell Crags, through working at Creswell Crags, I got to learn about the rock art and more about the human prehistory of Britain and Europe.
So what makes Creswell Crags so unique or different than other rock art sites throughout the world?
So Creswell Crags, I mean, the beauty of it is it's not so different, I guess, for me, is that it kind of demonstrates that it is part of a much wider tradition. We have rock art engravings, not just in Europe, in France, in Spain, in other countries, but also across the world, over in the Americas, in Africa. So for me, it's not so unique. It's part of this much wider tradition that shows humanity have always wanted to kind of make their mark. And the roots of that go back really, really deeply. So I think that's what I love most about it, that connection. What about you, Angharad?
Yeah, again, like for me, it's probably not unique, but I like how we can connect like the humans with the environment at the time. So we've got, evidence of humans interacting with the animals. We've got animals pre-humans. We've got animals just existing as themselves. And then we've got understanding of the environments as well to put into context what the humans were experiencing at the time that they were likely creating the rock art. So we get a fuller picture of what was going on at the time.
So you have a remarkable sort of outdoor university, their educational platform to assist those who come and visit. Sounds fabulous. Who discovered Creswell Crags and what's its history?
So funnily enough, this month is the 150th anniversary of the first official excavations at Creswell Crags.
That's amazing.
So the first two excavators were John Meggers Mello and Thomas Heath, and they were soon joined by William Boyd Dawkins, and they did the first excavations in the 1870s, focusing on Pinhole, Robin Hood Cave and Mother Grundy and Church Hole, and then they returned to excavate Mother Grundy's Parlour, and that sort of sparked another 150 years of excavations and further research into the site, just because of the amount of animal remains that are found there, the amount of human tools, both bone tools and stone tools, portable art, evidence of the environment. So there's been a huge amount of research, and that's not even considering the discovery of the rock art.
Tell us what they discovered by the archaeological studies. What were the physical artifacts like, and what kind of remains, and how old is the site? A lot of questions.
So the oldest animal remains are 125,000 years old. So that's
You're kidding me. 125,000 years old?
Yeah. So last interglacial.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, last interglacial, a warm period. No humans in Britain at the time, but hippopotamuses, narrow-nosed rhinoceros, hyenas, etc.
Wow.
And then we've got around about 50 to 40,000 years ago, we've got hyenas again, woolly mammoths, woolly rhinoceroses. We've got Neanderthals, evidence of Neanderthals from their stone tools. And then roughly around about 15 to 13,800 years ago, we've got a mountain ten horse with evidence of having been utilised by humans, along with their stone tools and bone tools as well.
So you've got about 50,000 years worth of just human use of the caves, correct?
Yes, yeah.
And of the animal use or the animal deposition is unbelievable. That is quite impressive from a standpoint of someone in the Americas. We don't have anything like that would even compare. So that's quite impressive, I have to say. What sort of tools were the people using back in the Neanderthal days, and how do those differ?
So I'll take this one because I'm sort of I guess I'm the archaeologist, aren't I? If Angharad's the paleontologist.
Yeah.
So Neanderthal tools that we have quite a lot of really cool stuff. So the main thing that comes to mind when I think of Neanderthals and Creswell Crags would be hand axes. They're your sort of archetypical butchery tool. They're quite sort of teardrop or triangular shaped, made of flint, which isn't local to the site, so it was brought, but also made of other local materials as well, like quartzite and ironstone. And they would have knapped it in the same way as they would have worked flint to create this sort of triangular tool that they could use for animal butchery. So chopping up skins, chopping up meat. We've also got a couple of spear points, although we're not sure whether they're Neanderthal or not. Now, Neanderthals, they made wooden tools quite a lot as well. So they may have made wooden spears that they hunted these animals, that they then butchered with the flint and the ironstone and the quartzite tools. But when you get to the later Homo sapiens, or Homo sapiens as you would call them, the butchery tools are very different. So about 15,000 years ago, we're then using blade technologies, which are a very different, much sort of thinner lithic than chunkier Neanderthal hand axes are.
Fascinating. Is there evidence of the specific animals that they were butchering in your caves?
That's a good question. Angharad probably knows more about that than I do. What do you think?
Okay.
In terms of Neanderthals, there's one, maybe two bones of reindeer that they were butchered.
Okay.
That's it in terms of actual evidence on the bones.
And then the later people, what were they going after there? Or is there evidence of the refuse remains, the faunal remains, the archaeofauna that you may have found in the cave in terms of the animals?
Homo sapiens were targeting mountain hare and wild horse.
Oh, wow. Huh. Fantastic. What an amazing place to, understand the prehistoric environment by having just tremendous amounts of animals deposited. That is just unbelievable. How remarkable. What about the visitors? How many visitors come, and when do they come, and why do they come?
So we get loads of visitors. It depends on the weather. As you might know, the British weather's not always the most reliable. But the great thing about caves is that it doesn't really matter what the weather's like outside, because the cave is nice and sheltered.
Sure.
So I'd say I think our main audience at the moment is schools. We get school trips in every day. And we sort of, families come in with their kids in the holidays. So at the moment we're in our Easter holidays, and we're getting lots of grandparents with their grandchildren wanting to go into the caves to learn more about the Ice Age. So that's always really nice. And it's nice to see the site kind of buzzing with people who are really passionate, as well as people who are just sort of chilling out and having an ice cream.
And what about the images themselves that are on the cave walls? What particular animals are fashioned?
So the ones that we've got on our cave walls are big three, as I like to call them. We've got an image of a deer stag, We've got an image of a bison, and we've got an image of a bird as well as some strange sort of abstract symbols. But those are probably our main animal ones. Would you agree, Angharad? Yeah.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And do you have more recent imagery, abstract or others for the Homo sapiens side?
So we do have some carvings that were made in much, much later time periods. So sort of from the Middle Ages onwards, and they would be our witch marks. So the fancy name for those is apotropaic marks. And apotropaic is a Greek word that means to turn away. So they're protective marks, we think, aimed at turning away and preventing evil. So it's interesting because the caves have shifted massively from being considered a home and a haven in the Ice Age to being very much a place to be feared by the time you get into the medieval era and onwards. So much so that people are making these marks to keep away evil.
I have never heard that term. Being the wordsmith that I am, I'll have to look that one up.
Yeah, it's a tricky one.
No, I like
Monday
it.
Morning, but...
And what kinds of marks are those that give that emote that kind of feeling or communicate that kind of message? What images are they?
So you can have lots of different kinds of witch marks, as far as I'm aware.
Witch marks, okay.
Yeah, so witch marks is it's our sort of colloquial name for them. And the ones we have are all sort of letters that represent sort of Latin words calling on God and Jesus and Mary for protection.
Wow. Fantastic. Well, let's stop it there and pick it up in the next segment. See you on the flip-flop, gang. Welcome back to the second segment of your Rock Art Podcast, episode 141. We're talking to Dr. Jones and Hannah Andrews about Creswell Crags. This is in the UK, and they were nice enough to get up and talk to us at 1 a.m. in the morning. Can you imagine? Pretty great. So tell me a bit about what the experience is like of visiting these caves. Are they true caves? Do you go deep? Do you have to walk along? Is it dark? Are they light? What's it like?
So it depends which cave you visit. We open a couple of different ones to the public, and you get a slightly different experience in each one. So the one with the rock art is not particularly deep. It's just one chamber that you visit, so you don't even need a light for that. Just the guide has a light to kind of show the engravings to the best of their ability. But Robin Hood Cave is our deepest, darkest cave, as I like to say. And that one is the one with the witch marks in it. So they're in sort of a different chamber. If we take people on a Life in the Ice Age tour where we tell them all about what life used to be like back in the Paleolithic era, then we go into the deepest, darkest back chamber, which isn't particularly far back, but you still need lights and torches to go through. If the kids aren't too freaked out, then we'll turn the lights out for a little bit and experience what it's like in the darkness of the back of the cave.
Right. So you have 3 different caves there that are composed of Creswell Crags, and each has a different kind of an ambiance to it. Am I correct?
We've actually got more than 20 caves and rock shelters.
Oh, no.
It's very complex. We just
my word.
To the public.
Wow. So tell me about some of the research or research papers or some of the exciting discoveries and individuals that perhaps continue to do studies and research and analyze various elements of these remarkable caves.
Oh, gosh. So we've got 150 years of research to contend with here.
Give us some of the new cutting edge stuff and what kind of questions they're asking and what they think the caves might tell them. How's that?
Okay, yeah. So there's some stuff I can't tell you about because I'm not related to the research and they haven't published their papers yet. But we do have excavations going on today, and they're led by Dr. Kevin Kirkendall of the University of Sheffield. And he is doing more of a landscape approach. So he's trying to identify areas outside of the caves where there might be deposits, because obviously humans and animals didn't float between the caves to use the entire landscape. We just need to try and find out where the preservation conditions were conducive to the items still being preserved today. So that's his project in terms of excavations. In terms of other things, so in 2008, there was a discovery of a site called the Crypt, So that was chock-a-block full of like gravels and really small mammal remains. And that was excavated in like 10 centimetre spits. And that's something we're still researching today. So I'm going through and identifying the mammals. We've had a couple of master's students working on it today, recently this year, as well as identifying the teeth and the bones by eye. We're applying zoom, so zoology by mass spectrometry, to help us to identify morphologically indistinguishable items like bone fragments, to see what other species were there as well. And yes, it's just a really exciting time and really exciting to see what we can learn now with new techniques that, you know, the excavators 150 years ago could not even comprehended would have existed.
Is there a museum on site that has the artifacts and faunal remains and other things that have been the results of the past excavations?
There is, yeah. We've got an exhibition, so that shows Neanderthal stone tools, Homo sapiens tools, animal remains as well. So visitors can learn about how the environment changed in the past, how the fauna and the human technology as well changed in the past at Creswell Crags.
Amazing. So tell me what the most interesting thing is that you find or have found in your experiences with Creswell Crags.
So I think me and Hannah will probably have different.
Yes. Yeah.
So for me, actually I asked my colleagues this question quite recently for a video for a temporary exhibition.
Yeah.
I've got two things. So small mammals are really quite precious to me because my master's dissertation was actually on the crypt. And also traditionally small mammals were overlooked. So the Victorian archaeologists just sort of disregarded them. But we now know they're really important for understanding past environments and just really important themselves in understanding what's living here. And then also hyenas were super, super important at Creswell Crags. So they denned in the caves. They brought the remains of their prey into the caves. We have loads of their remains so we can understand what the hyenas were like, compare them to hyenas from other sites, from other time periods. And if it really wasn't for the hyenas, we would know a lot less about what Creswell Crags was like because they wouldn't have brought the animals, the remains of their prey into caves where they would have been preserved.
So thanks to the hyenas, there was an incredible inventory of archaeofauna, correct?
Exactly, yeah.
Hannah, what do you think? What rings your chimes, and you can move in the spirit with your experiences at Creswell Crags? Tell me something exciting that you have experienced.
Well, I love the rock art. I love the piece of portable art we've got, which our sort of most famous piece is probably the ochre horse, which is a little horse carved on a piece of horse rib bone and rubbed with red ochre powder to make the lines stand out. But
oh my word.
It's really cool. But my other favourite thing that we have is the bone needle, which is what I chose when Angharad asked us to pick something, because the bone needle looks exactly like our modern needles today. There is no difference in the design of the needle 12,000+ years ago than we have now. The only difference in our modern needles is the material. So for me, that artifact in particular is a wonderful reminder that the people who inhabited our caves all the way back in the prehistoric era were people just like you and me, who felt the same things, who experienced the world in similar ways, who even sat down and did the same activities like sewing of an evening. And I think we have this tendency to box prehistoric humans into these notions of primitiveness and savagery. But actually, it's a really nice reminder, as I said, that they're just like us.
Exactly. That's wonderful. Tell me more about that portable piece of art that you were talking about that was rubbed with red ochre.
So it's a really beautiful little artifact. It's really, really small, only a few centimeters long. And it's found in Robin Hood Cave, so the cave where we think people were living about 14,000 years ago. Wow. And it's been scratched, this little horse, onto, presumably with a flint tool called a burin, onto this tiny piece of horse rib bone, and then rubbed with this powder, this red ochre hematite iron powder, to make the lines pop. But the really other interesting thing about it is that it seems to have also been deliberately scratched out and then broken. So it seems to have been deliberately destroyed after it was created. And we don't know why that was. We can surmise lots of different things, but it adds to the mystery of this really enigmatic object.
I love it. That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. So what is your vision for the future for Creswell Crags, and what's the direction you're taking the particular facilities?
So that's a really interesting question because it's something we're considering at the moment.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm the curator, so I do the collections and the research and the exhibitions. So it'd be really good for me if we could revamp our exhibition and make it a lot more accessible to so many different people. So children, adults, people with different access needs, so everybody can experience different parts of the exhibition. I'd like us to be able to create temporary exhibitions that are exciting, that bring people in. And I'd also like us to do more research in-house and facilitate external research visits and also research collaborations as well, just to show that Creswell Crags is a site of new and continuing research and that we have, really exciting and interesting stories that we can continue to tell.
Fantastic. How about you, Hannah?
Yes, I'd love to see all of that as well. From Angharad's perspective, I think all of that is really cool and really necessary. As a member of the learning team, I guess I just want to see us reaching out sort of more people, maybe expanding our facilities so that we can have more school groups in, more tours, and just getting the word out there about us, really, because I think we're a bit of a hidden gem because we're sort of on the wrong side of the Peak District, which is the local area that tourists come to. People don't really know that we're here. So the more we can do things like this, the more you can spread the word across the world that Creswell Crags is here and it's fascinating and it's unique and special, then I think that's the sort of direction we want to be moving in.
Sounds great. So what about the images themselves on the rock art, both the witch images and the images of the animals? How intensively have those been studied? Has there been reconstructions or replicas of those? Have they used special photography on them? Are they such that you need to use state-of-the-art elements in photography to really bring them out? Are there any discoveries in association with those images that surprised you or that were important to archaeologists and anthropologists?
So, the original discoverers in 2003, so
yes,
Dr. Paul Barn, Professor Paul Pettit and Professor Sergio Ripoll, they obviously did their research. They sort of took a long time finding and mapping and identifying and interpreting the images. Mm-hmm. They also uranium series dated the flowstone overlying the rock art to be able to provide minimum dates. So those dated to 12,800, 12,639 and 7,320 years ago. So showing us that the rock art is older than that. And then more recently, we had 3 researchers come to do their own research using more modern techniques on the rock art. So that was Dr. Izzy Wisher, Dr. Barbara Ustovic and Dr. Lisa Ellen Mehring. And they were really kind enough to do photogrammetry on the art and then share their photogrammetry with us. We included that in a temporary exhibition celebrating the 20th anniversary of the discovery of the rock art.
Fantastic.
They did a talk for us, and I can't really share what they discovered because their paper hasn't been published yet, but
okay,
it was really...
Hold that thought and we'll continue this discussion on segment 3. See you in the flip-flop, gang.
Ready to level up? Chumba Casino is your playbook to fun. It's free to play with no purchase necessary. Enjoy hundreds of casino-style games like bingo, slots, and solitaire anytime, anywhere with fresh releases every week. Whether you're at home or on the go, let Chumba Casino bring the excitement to you. Plus, get free daily login bonuses and a free welcome bonus. Join now for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Play Chumba Casino today. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. T&Cs apply.
Welcome back, gang. This is your host, Dr. Alan Garfinkel, on episode 141 of your Rock Art podcast. And we are blessed and honored to have Dr. Jones and Hannah Andrews here. We're talking about Creswell Crags and the remarkable series of caves there in the UK. So where do we take this now, Dr. Jones and Ms. Andrews? What is it that we want our listeners to know about Creswell Crags and its remarkable nature? What entices people to go there, and what is the benefits that people can get from exploring the museum and the caves themselves?
So I guess we're one of the only sort of Paleolithic rock art sites in the UK. So that's not an experience you're going to get in many other places in this country. And of course, you can go and see gorgeous rock art down in France and down in Spain, but it's really nice that we have it on our own doorstep as well. So definitely I would encourage anybody who's really interested in prehistoric rock art from any period of the Stone Age to come and just have a look, because this is your cultural heritage right here on your doorstep. But not only that, it's a really beautiful site. We, have talked about how important Creswell Crags was in the past for animals, both big and small. But we have a fantastically beautiful site that still supports loads of amazing nature today. So we kind of carry on that Ice Age heritage, really, of being a site that's really important for natural history as well as human prehistory. And as I said, it's a real hidden gem. So anybody who's into nature, anybody who cares about the past, where we've come from, where we're going, anyone who cares about their sort of cultural heritage and wants to know more about where they came from and what's on their doorstep, Creswell Crags is kind of the place to come for that.
Dr. Jones.
So I might do a bit of a plug if you don't mind, because...
Please do. Yeah, that's what this is for.
I imagine a lot of your listeners aren't based in the UK, but they can still engage with us. So we have online talks that I host, that take place on a Monday evening, 6 p.m. UK time, but they're on Zoom, so anyone can listen in. And we also have a Patreon account as well, which is paid for, but you can listen to the past online talks, which are nearing 100, other digital content like videos from our exhibition. And that really does help to support Creswell Crags because we are a charity. So any little bit that people can do to support us, especially if they're also interested in what we're about and the content, really does help. So we have sort of about rock art and archaeology and paleontology on our Patreon account and on our online talks as well. So you can just Google Creswell Crags Eventbrite or Creswell Crags Patreon, and you should be able to bring those sites up.
Dr. Jones, how can you have 100 different presentations? That's remarkable.
So I haven't done all of them myself. I did do one earlier today, but
tell us a bit about the glitterati that have shared that particular Zoom platform. Give us a peek.
You're asking me now to remember lots of names at 1:30 a.m. Okay, so we've had Professor Chris Stringer, who is a famous archaeologist, anthropologist. We have had, oh my goodness, we've had so many amazing people. We've had people speaking about La Brea tar pits. We've had...
Oh, really?
Yes, yeah. We've had people speaking about small mammals in Germany, mammals in Saudi Arabia, humans across Britain.
Wow.
I'm completely blanking at the topics.
No, but
we have lots of different
amazing
ones as well. As Angharad said, it's not just sort of your archaeology and your paleontology, but I know we've had people do them on the nature, do them on birds. There's a guy called Jack Badams who's quite famous on our Instagram and our telly over here and things, who I know did a talk for us on birds and things. So that kind of stuff appears on there as well.
Well, I guess this is a global platform and we all can reconnect at very different levels. But that's amazing. Really is. Is there anything about Creswell Crags that would surprise us and is very unusual for the place, and we would not expect to have that element represented?
That's a really good question. We have a stuffed hyena at the bottom of the stairs, which always surprises people. We call him Spot. Nobody ever expects him to be there.
You have
it's brilliant.
Stuffed hyena.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. Well, since the hyena is a central character in this whole journey, that makes perfect sense. What do you have in your museum? I guess you got the stuffed hyena, but what else can we see there in your museum, and what can museum visitors do or know and get from visiting the museum and the caves?
So in the museum, hyenas again, we have a juvenile hyena skeleton that is almost completely preserved.
Oh, wow.
As far as I'm aware, pretty unique to the UK, not so much for the wider Europe, because there was a museum, a cave cavern regime where they found almost 300 juvenile hyena skeletons. But for Britain, fairly unique, almost completely preserved. And you can see hyenas of all different ages as well in the exhibition in the museum.
Can people volunteer and work with Creswell Crags?
Yeah, we do have plenty of volunteers. Most of them, as far as I know, help out with maintaining our grounds and things.
Okay.
But there may well be capacity for them to do other bits and pieces as well. I know you've got volunteers who sort of help you out with the going through the material from the crypt Angharad that we haven't analysed yet and stuff. So yeah, we just help from anybody is always welcome, and that can sort of reach out and spark an interest for other people as well, which is really important.
What's the most fun you've had at Creswell Crags? Give me some of the high points of the surprising experiences you've had.
Over the years, we've done loads and loads of bits and pieces. We think we have a lot of fun anyway, don't we? Because we say lots of things at work and lots of things happen that just don't seem to happen at other workplaces. You know, like you'll be carting around a big rubber bison and talking to your colleagues about how he won't walk for himself, so you've got to drag him around on a big cart. So we make really weird statements every day that you wouldn't say anywhere else. But we've done loads of stuff. Like we did a Victorian festival a few years ago, which helped sort of celebrate some of those early excavations, which was so much fun. People dressed up as Victorians, so we all got a bit dressed up and had like a old-timey lemonade stand and did tours in costume. You know, I dress up as a Stone Age person for the school trip, so paint my face, wear the furs. So there's lots and lots of stuff that goes on, isn't there? That's just sort of on a daily basis, really fun.
Sounds like a blast. Really does. It
is, yeah.
How many folk work at Creswell Crags in terms of those that are paid or employees?
I think about 30 to 40. It varies depending if we're high season or low season.
Yeah, but we're a real community. We were saying earlier that we just get on with everybody so well. Like we're all just massive nerds about the Ice Age and the rock art and things. Like, we all get on really, really well. So it's like a big sort of family, isn't it, really?
That is just great. Well, I know in the States we've had a lot of issues surrounding trying to conduct ourselves and do archaeology. But I think that in the UK, in the old world, as we call it, some of those issues are not as relevant. So you have a whole different perspective, that the timeline is so different and the character of the archaeological record is so different as well. So it's really amazing to talk to you, you know, by way of comparison in terms of my familiarity with the things that I've done versus the kinds of subjects and research interests that you have there. The photogrammetry is big, certainly here in the States. And we've also started to do a lot of work with virtual reality, VR. Have you begun doing any of that?
We'd be interested in exploring VR for any new exhibition revamps. It's not something we've started to do, but we're looking into the possibility of it and see how feasible it is and see, you know, because we don't want to take away from the physical experience, but it could be an addition for another way for people to experience the site, especially for people who maybe can't get into the caves for whatever reason.
Yes, that's why I mentioned it. Absolutely. Yeah. Did you do anything with LiDAR on the caves at all in terms of the photogrammetry or sort of teasing out the imagery on stone?
LiDAR has been done, I think, but I haven't seen results yet.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that brings us to a close. I want to thank you both for coming on board and sharing your enthusiasm for Creswell Crags. And it's been a just fantastic interchange. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, thank you. It's been really fun.
All the best. See you on the flip-flop, gang.
Thanks for listening to the Rock Art Podcast with Dr. Alan Garfinke and Chris Webster. Find show notes and contact information at www.archpodnet.com/rockart. Thanks for listening, and thanks for sharing this podcast with your family and friends. The Archaeology Podcast Network is 10 years old this year. Our executive producer is Ashley Airy, our social media coordinator is Matilda Siebrecht, and our chief editor is Rachel Roden. The Archaeology Podcast Network was co-founded by Chris Webster and Tristan Boyle in 2014 and is part of Cultura Media and DigTech LLC.
This has been a presentation of the Archaeology Podcast Network. Visit us on the web for show notes and other podcasts at www.archpodnet.com. Contact us at chris@archaeologypodcastnetwork.com.